As athletes, the ultimate dream is to represent your country in the sport you love, to kick that winning goal in the dying seconds and bring back the mighty gold. I too had that dream, which was almost realized 5 years ago when I was selected to play for a unique team of Israelis and Palestinians, the Peace Team, in the AFL International Cup. Unfortunately, a week before we left, my dream was shattered when I tore ligaments in my knee and required surgery. There was to be no winning goal. However, I realized that being part of the Peace Team was far more important than scoring that winning goal and striving for that moment of glory and fame. The impact this team has had on us, our families, our communities, and the wider Australian population was simply amazing. My goal had changed. For a few minutes, I'd like to give you an insight into this incredible group of players, my friends and teammates, the Peace Team. First, let's head back 5 years to the Peace Team selection session in Abu Ghosh, a town just round the corner who you might all know for its famous hummus. I remember sitting in a small room with a bunch of Israelis and Palestinians watching YouTube videos of AFL footy. There was a lot of tension in the room. The Israelis all stuck to one side, the Palestinians the other, and exchanged very nervous-looking stares and looks. I remember seeing one of the Palestinian guys, Dari, who's standing right here. He looked like a ferocious fighter. My mind was coming up with all sorts of stories of where he was from and what he's capable of. 5 years later, standing here today, I can tell you exactly who he is and where he's from. He is a loving father and hard worker from East Jerusalem, who is actually a big teddy bear, but he's also a bulldozer on the footy field. Watch out, Aussies. The first Peace Team participated in the International AFL Cup in Australia in 2008, and then 3 years ago again, the Peace Team 2 travelled, comprising most of the players you see here today. I was privileged to coach this group of players. We trained once a week in Israel. The Israelis would come from all over the country to train in Jaffa, while the Palestinians would come from East Jerusalem and the West Bank, often taking hours to travel through Israeli security checkpoints to get to training. On the field, we put our beliefs and politics aside and focused on the game. It was all about honing our skills and learning the basic rules of our game. Nothing else needed to be said. It was an amazing leveler and an incredible way to get all our aggression out within the boundaries of the rule of the game. We also had mediated dialogue sessions where we were encouraged to ask difficult questions to the other side and listen and respect each other's points of view. I remember our marathon dialogue session at Wingate Institute at our training camp just before we departed to Australia. It was intense to say the least. Guys were angry. I seriously thought punches were going to be thrown. There was so much emotion, so much history, and such different versions of it. In the end, we all agreed to disagree about certain things, but we all had a renewed sense of respect for one another. That night, we hung out as good mates generally do. One of the highlights for me was our visit to Beni Naim, a Palestinian village in the West Bank, just near Hebron. For so long, the Palestinians had been coming to Israel for training. Now it was the Israelis' turn to reciprocate. Nassim, our inspirational teammate, was getting married. He had sacrificed so much to get married, and we all had shared in this journey. It was now our chance to repay him respects. Everyone was really nervous. For many of the Israelis, their last time in the West Bank was as soldiers, guarding at checkpoints or on operations. Our fears were quickly put aside upon arrival, and we were welcomed with open arms like VIPs. The hospitality was amazing, and more importantly, seeing this with our own eyes helped dispel so many myths and fears. The Peace Team wouldn't be the unique team it is without the individual players, the heart and soul of the team. Anas is a university student in political science and hopefully a future Palestinian leader. His brother Osama, the team pretty boy. Despite his good looks and amazing talent, the guys like picking on him, and we all have a good laugh. Oli is about to become a father soon. His family have suffered at the hands of the conflict. He was a combat soldier in an elite Israeli unit and still does reserve duty. In fact, he's bumped into a couple of his Palestinian teammates at checkpoints while doing guard duty. I'll never forget the day Omer came straight from reserve duty to an intense dialogue session. Despite spending the last few days preparing for war, he came to training with an open mind and open heart. These Palestinians are our teammates and friends, not our enemy. Kamal is our beloved captain, who many of the players look up to, a true leader. Kamal has invested so much in peace over the years and has sacrificed so much. No matter how much he stands to lose, he is committed to the cause and to his friends of the Peace Team. Suleiman, our Palestinian manager, was also my roommate in Australia. As he said, he spent 10 years in Israel jail for attempting to injure Israeli soldiers. He is now a changed man who's committed to bringing Israelis and Palestinians together. We have been through many challenging moments together. Last November, war broke out in Gaza and rockets were fired into Israel, many of them reaching Tel Aviv. I was having a kick in the park with a mate and I heard the air raid siren. As we ran for cover, I watched the skies as the Israeli Iron Dome took out the Israeli rockets in mid-air. There were so many emotions going through my head. I was terrified and I was angry, and I felt myself starting to boil with hate. I got home and decided to write a letter to my teammates, telling them how I felt. They knew me, and I knew they would listen. I knew we were all in this together. We were all suffering together. The peace team is so much more than just a footy team. We don't know what the future may bring, but the peace team will live on. We will continue talking, whether it be on Facebook or face-to-face. We will continue to meet up despite the physical barriers that present themselves to us. And we will continue spreading our message at events like these to people like you, leaders of your communities, who have the power to use sport and other tools to bring people together, whether they be Israelis, Palestinians, Jews or Muslims. To talk, listen and understand each other's fears and aspirations, and to learn each other's respect. I encourage you all to use the legacy of the peace team to bring the gold home to Australia. But perhaps even more important, to spread our message of peace and tolerance amongst your friends, families and communities. Go on the peace team! Just